Alright everyone, and welcome back to another video. Last time we left off with Dnipropetrovsk liberated. We are now on to Italian prisoners of war in America, October 30th, 1943. Far from the noise of battle. The Geneva Convention of 1929 established specific rules and regulations regarding the treatment of prisoners of war, and the Allies lived up to the letter of the law in treatment of their captives. Early in 1943, a series of prisoners of war camps were set up in the United States, and Italians and Germans started to arrive in this country. Each day, the enlisted personnel among the prisoners were assigned various duties by their own leader, usually a non-commissioned officer, as shown in the picture on the top. So that guy would be the non-commissioned officer, and then, yeah, obviously he's giving them the tasks that they need to do. And then, as shown in the bottom picture, they can relax in recreational rooms. So there is a slight caveat to this. So prisoners of war were treated to the letter of the Geneva Convention by the Allies, some of them. There is another ally that did not necessarily uphold the Geneva Convention. That would obviously be the Soviet Union. The treatment of some prisoners by the Soviet Union could be what you would call a breach of the Geneva Convention. I'm sure that's not a surprise to anyone that knows the war, but yeah. Obviously, they're trying to paint it as, oh, the Allies are great. Only some of them. The Soviet Union people, I'm sure they're great. Stalin himself, not so much. The attack on Mono, October 27th, 1943. Thunder at dawn. In the picture at top, destroyers of the United States Pacific Fleet shell the defense of this treasury island on the southern flank of Bougainville. The objective was to soften the enemy-held stepping stone for the combined American-New Zealand forces to establish a beachhead, as shown in the picture below. Here, on an inlet he had never heard of, a soldier pays the price of freedom. Guns ready, his comrades search for the enemy pillbox from whence the deadly fire came. So yeah, obviously this is very true for many of these soldiers. There's many islands in the Pacific, and a lot of them that most Americans, even today, never even heard of. The only ones that have heard of some of these islands are people that studied the Second World War, or geography. But most, on the whole, wouldn't. And it's very sad that this happened to these boys. But hopefully, at least, his final moments were either quick and painless. Okay. Another step towards Tokyo. Mono Island seized. October 27th, 1943. A step on the long road to victory. I forgot to show that there. My bad. Bye-bye. Sorry. There we go. The seizure of Mono Island in the Treasury Group, Central Solomons, on October 27th was typical of the amphibious campaign, which were moving the Allies step by step towards their final goal. Backed by long planning, the Mono victory was small in size, but big in importance. A demonstration when Japanese forces are small and ill-prepared, the Allies could move with the same terrorizing speed as the Japanese once did. The landing was made in daylight after a terrific bombardment by United States destroyers. Within 14 hours, the Allied forces, American and New Zealanders, had killed or captured the majority of the 200 to 300 Japanese. When the action ended, the rising sun had slid back again in the long ebb toward Tokyo. In this picture, New Zealanders forming the second wave come in as fog begins to veil the shores of Mono. The LCPs are run far up on the rocky shore as the men hasten to get supplies debarked. Meanwhile, parachutists descend on nearby Choiseul. Both islands are on the southern flank of the much larger Bougainville, which was the last stronghold left to the enemy in the Solomons. So yeah, we can see, obviously, like they said, LCPs high on the rocks there. They're trying to get as much supplies off. And yeah, they're moving fast. The island hopping, it goes real quick. Sometimes it's just a day or maybe less than a day, and you're capturing these islands and you're going and going and going. The Allies never slow down here. They need to keep the pressure on the Japanese so that the Japanese doesn't have the ability to really react as quickly or as effectively as they would probably prefer. Secretary Hull in Moscow. November 1st, 1943. Victory at Moscow. At long last, Russia, Britain, and the United States joined hand as a team to finish off the Nazis and the peace and plan the peace. My bad. This was the significance of the Moscow Agreement reached on the Molotov and Eden-Hull Conference the last 2 weeks in October, and this was the reason why the Allies would the lettering is starting to like fade here, and so it's kind of hard to read some of this. Why the Allied world rejoiced as though at a decisive victory. The agreement officially ended a quarter century of smoldering distrust between Russia and the Western powers. Dating back to the days after the last war, when Allied troops invaded Russia to combat the new Bolshevism and flared up in 1938 when Russia was excluded from the Munich Conference, and again in 1939 when Stalin signed a scrap of paper with Hitler. Here, above, signing the pact which wiped out all the major suspicions, are, left to right, Fu Ping-shong. So Fu Ping-shong, that guy right there. And he is the Chinese ambassador. Right here is Secretary Hull. Secretary of State Cordell Hull. Right here is V.M. Molotov, Soviet Commissar of Foreign Affairs. And then right here is Anthony Eden, British Minister of Foreign Affairs. And then at the picture at the left here, Secretary Hull is shown as he was greeted in Moscow by Mr. Molotov and an honor guard of picked Russian troops. So, as we know, this didn't really wipe out a lot of those suspicions like they say they did. They are trying to paint a picture that the Allies were all friends and things like that, and they did work well together. But for those of us who live today, we know very well that after the war, these agreements and stuff didn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. The Allies and all kind of broke up. The Western powers and the Soviet Union still didn't like each other very much. Even Winston Churchill kind of plans for the next inevitable war against the Soviet Union. It never comes, but a lot of people planned that. Very much later in the war, General Patton of the U.S. Army said, what was it? He would, whenever he would enter German towns, he would leave a lot of the former government in charge. And why? Most of his reasoning was they already ran the government, and so they don't have to try to relearn the government. Basically, here the Allies don't. But another reason was so that no Soviets got in charge, and that was another reason, because he also believed that the Soviets were the next enemy, and they were kind of right. The Soviets did become the next enemy. It's very unfortunate that basically world peace couldn't exist, but these things happen. This is going to be the last page for this video. Kyiv reconquered. The Crimea is invaded. November 7th, 1943. Celebration in Moscow. The pyrotechnic display in the Soviet capital in honor of the Soviet forces which liberated Kyiv, capital of the Ukraine, and the third city of the Soviet Union, is shown in the picture at the top. So yeah, we can see basically a huge pyrotechnic display saying, "Yeah, we did it, boys. Good job. We were so proud of you." Things like that. And yeah, we know the Germans are getting pushed back and back and back, and so the Soviet Union is just being recaptured. So I'm sure they were very happy about this. And then below here, red infantrymen hunt out the beaten Nazis in the ruins of the buildings in the city. Meanwhile, 300 miles southeast, the Red Army closes a trap on 90,000 Germans in the Crimea. In Crimea. I said in the... But yeah, we can see the troops there. Get ready to kick out the Germans. And obviously, yes, I didn't used to say Nazis really, but I will if the book calls for it. I preferred not to, only because I don't think it's right to see the Germans as all Nazis. Sometimes they were just soldiers, but I have kind of rescinded that because I'll still say Russians a lot and not Soviet Union. So, if anyone would like me to go back to just calling them all Germans, let me know in the comments of this video. And with that, that's going to do it for this video. If you guys liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment and tell me what I could improve on. I really appreciate your feedback. I'm trying to make these videos better. I'm not 100% sure on what exactly to do, so any comment really does help out. And as always, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thank you.